studio. Richard is here now with his review of Everybody Wants Some and other movies being released this weekend. You going to wrap this review?
I am not.
As advertised?
But, you know, listen, there was a time when I could have done the entire Rapper's Delight along with the guys in the movie. And one of the things that's great about this movie, and I loved Everybody Wants Some, and you have to keep in mind, it's Everybody Wants Some with 2 exclamation marks after the title. That's the official title. Is when they sing Rapper's Delight in it, they do pretty much the entire song. And, you know, it's that kind of movie. It's the kind of movie that lets things breathe, that sort of drops you in the middle of this guy's life. He's going off to college. It's 3 days in his life before his first class. He doesn't know his roommates in this big frat house he's going to be living in. He's on the baseball team, so that he has to go to practice. They go to discos. They try and pick up girls. They feather their hair. There's a scene with a bong that goes on for quite a long time, which is hysterically funny. It is a movie that isn't really driven by its narrative. It's just a slice of life. It's a look back at a certain time and place. And Richard Linklater is a genius at creating these movies that have a kind of feel to them. Boyhood.
Yeah.
Dazed and Confused was you know, a look at the 70s and made Matthew McConaughey a star.
Sure did.
And then his, you know, movies with Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, the Before Sunrise, those movies are just these beautiful slices of life. And that's what this is as well. It kind of feels like you're at a party with some people you don't really know, but you're just getting to know them for about an hour and a half.
You liked it, I can tell.
I loved it, yeah. So it's a 4-star movie for me.
4 stars from Richard Krause.
Yeah, it's a really affectionate look back at an interesting era and a time before the 80s turned a little bit darker. You know, it was before the AIDS crisis, it was before the Reagan years. It's kind of in that sweet spot between Saturday Night Fever in the late 70s and, you know, I don't know, like in 1982. It fits right in there somewhere. Yeah.
Okay, from that to a different kind of movie, sci-fi, Midnight Special.
Yeah, there's not a lot of movies opening this weekend because nobody wants to get in the way of the box office tsunami of Batman versus Superman. So there are a couple of smaller movies, and you might have a bit of a trick finding these movies because they're opening slowly across the country. But Midnight Special is directed by a guy called Jeff Nichols, and he made a movie called Mud and another movie called Take Shelter, both of which were very different films, but both of which showed that this is a guy that isn't afraid to ask more questions than he's going to answer in his films. And this is kind of the culmination of that.
Does it work?
It really works. Midnight Special starts off with what we think is an abduction of a young boy. There's 2 men, one Michael Shannon, the other Joel Edgerton. They've got this little boy and they're in a hotel room, and then they have to like keep him under a blanket and throw him in the back of a car, and they've got to get him out because there's members of a cult are chasing him. It seems like this sort of much larger kind of strange story. Turns out this little boy may or may not be some kind of prophet. At least the cult they took him from thinks he is. Turns out also the FBI thinks that this little boy has some kind of power that contains a secret that Homeland Security very much wants to get their hands on. I'm not going to tell you any more than that because any more than that is a spoiler, but this movie is a science fiction movie because the boy does have powers. You see in the trailer, lasers come out of his eyes and that kind of thing. But you never really know what they are. And it's kind of there's one of those beautiful unconventional movies that allows you to use your imagination as the movie unfolds in front of you.
And
so
this is what you mean about the questions,
Yeah, the
right?
questions. And you will go out for a drink or a coffee or something afterwards and probably argue a little bit about what this movie means. And for me, that means that the movie has stayed with you, that it's worked. And so it's a 4-star movie for me.
It's a weekend with 2 4-star movies.
2 movies, 8 stars. That doesn't happen. Sometimes I review 10 movies and there's only 8 stars.
You know, I remember a couple minus somethings here and there. Yeah, for wasting your time.
That's
right. This is good. Good weekend then. Nice to see you, Richard.
Nice to see you.
You can find Richard's reviews on our website, canadaam.ctvnews.ca.